I thought the fantasy was going to be we're going to find out we're pregnant and it's just going to be kumbaya, and there's not going to be any aversions, there's not going to be any nausea, there's not going to be any sickness. It's just going to be this moment in time that's just filled with pure love and joy. The most challenging part of dealing with a pregnant woman was the hormonal changes of the first trimester. Katya was very tired, she was nauseated, couldn't sleep, she was restless. She was disillusioned about the whole experience. I was disillusioned about the whole experience. And what made it very difficult was outwardly there was no signs or symptoms really other than her just appearing tired. But inside she was averted to everything. She was going through nausea but no vomiting or no fever or anything like that. So I couldn't really, there was no like outward symptoms of like this person is clearly sick. So it was one of those things where I had to trust that she was feeling nauseated and that she was averted to foods, scents, places. Like we have a beautiful apartment and she just thought that it was the worst place in the world for a few months. And it's very challenging to deal with the hormonal ups and downs of pregnancy. Well, I can remember when we first took the pregnancy test and I seen that it was positive, and I was like, whoa, I was super excited because I had wanted to be a father for over a decade. I was super filled with joy. I was elated to have this experience that I've never experienced before. But then what happened was as that wore off around Christmas, I guess, the sickness of the first trimester set in. And so Katya started being very tired. She was averted. She couldn't sleep in the same bed with me. She couldn't kiss me. She'd try to kiss me. She'd like, ugh. And it was very hard not to take that personally because I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I haven't done anything. I'm the same person that you met, the same person that you chose to be with, and now you're totally averted to me. I really thought that maybe she just wanted a baby and didn't want me, and then I had to like think, how am I going to navigate this if this is the route that we're taking? And clearly that was not what was going on, but it made me feel that way. So I had to do a lot of inner work and just process a lot of things. I had to talk to a lot of fathers that I know that have been through this, and they said, yeah, just wait, pregnancy gets better. So I started educating myself. I started reading some books. I started listening to some people, not just hearing what I wanted to hear, but actually hearing it and actually believing Katya when she said she was sick and she wasn't wanting to be intimate. She wasn't wanting to kiss. Really, all she wanted to do was just kind of isolate that first trimester, and it was very difficult. The sex is constantly changing. When Katya and I first got together, our sex life was really good, and we were both enjoying it quite a lot. And then we found out we were pregnant, and she just did not want to be intimate. She didn't want to have sex. She didn't want to kiss me. She could barely hug me. She could barely sleep in the same bed. So having sex was definitely more of a chore to her than a fulfilling part of her life. And I had a hard time catching on to that. Katya and I didn't know each other super long before we chose to have a baby. It was challenging because I wasn't ready to read the script. I had my own fantasies and my own delusions about what this moment was going to be like. And I had always heard my whole life that women that are pregnant are actually super horny and wanting to have sex all the time. And that couldn't be further from the truth for me during the first trimester. But she had no libido. She didn't want to have sex. My smell averted her. Her daily tasks were just a chore. And so sex was the last thing on her mind. And with me, I had this thing of wanting to be, I was filled with joy and happiness and actual lust. And I was wanting to really grab onto this moment and have it go my way. And I've had to learn that part of being a father is, yes, you have to hold your form and you have to be masculine, but you also have to be able to go with the flow of the situation instead of always dictating the situation to my advantage. That's been a hard one for me because now it's about my family and what's best for my family. I am learning patience. Yes, patience, very slowly. The sexual rejection in pregnancy is real, and you have to have a plan of action on how you're going to navigate your sexual life. And so Katya and I, we have a pact where we don't watch pornography and we don't masturbate. And so all of a sudden she's pregnant, she's averted to me, she's not wanting to have sex. It's very difficult. And so how do I internalize that sexual energy and be productive? Well, I have to get about my business. I have to focus on what I'm doing with my life, how I'm preparing a home for my child and for my wife. And pornography is not an option. And that's a very, very cheap way of satisfaction. It's like a thrill ride. And pregnancy is anything but thrilling. Pregnancy is very wholesome. So you have to look for wholesome ways to relieve that sexual energy. And masturbation is just not the way to do it. Masturbation and pornography are just going to take you further away from the main objective, which is to score points and hopefully have sex eventually. It's very difficult waters to navigate because you can go out on the couch or go in the bedroom or whatever and relieve yourself and get rid of all that tension and go back into more of a loving person. But is that what your child really needs? Does your child really need a loving, nurturing puppy, or does your child need a man, even if the man is a little bit filled with sexual tension and running high off testosterone? What does a child really need? I don't think that we evolved as human beings that we're supposed to be masturbating. And so whatever is going on with this pregnancy, I'm supposed to figure out a way to deal with that. Going to the gym and working out, focusing on my business, spending more time in service to others, getting out of myself, because masturbation is a very selfish, self-fulfilling thing, which modern society would tell you that you're right, you should be doing that. I think the whole goal of manhood and fatherhood is to learn how to get out of self, how to learn to be less selfish and to be more serving. And so by going to masturbating, I'm taking my force, my strength, and I'm basically giving it away to pornography. And that's just going to make me unattractive to Katya. It's not going to give me any fulfillment or long-term satisfaction other than an ejaculation. And so it's difficult. And I completely understand when guys do turn to pornography because it's quick, it's easy, and it's thrilling, but it's not wholesome. And pregnancy is a very wholesome experience. And so I would always advise against men going to pornography to satisfy their sexual desires. I would say you can have deep conversations and not superficial conversations. Oh, let's go talk about the cosmos and what's happening on the other side of the galaxy. But it's like, no, how do we want to raise our daughter? What kind of values do we want to instill in our daughter? What type of values are we going to have as a couple? How are we going to treat our partner? How are we going to respect our partner? How are we going to love our partner more? I think these are all very important things that you have to talk about because there's a certain way that I want to be loved as a man, and there's a certain way that Katya wants to be loved as a female. And it's true intimacy to be honest about that. That way your partner knows how to treat you. And it's done wonders for our relationship. And then I can say, hey, I didn't like that. And she understands because I've already been completely honest about how I want to be treated, how I would like her to behave. And she's been honest to me with how she wants to be treated and how she wants to behave. So, and I think that's a true form of intimacy. And then also, we found a lot of pure enjoyment out just getting out in nature and just kind of taking life a little bit slower, not having to have thrill rides all the time, jumping on planes and flying places and riding jet skis around or things like that. We just find enjoyment out of going to the park and enjoying a botanical garden and just enjoying nature and life and peacefulness. Just being able to nurture your partner and caress your partner and basically pet your partner is a form of intimacy as well, where sex isn't really on the table, but you're still nurturing and loving them. And as a man, that's difficult because as soon as I get aroused, I want to have actual physical sex. But there is a point where I can control my arousal and I can really pour myself into her without having sex. And that's a very peaceful, wholesome place to be. I think I could have believed her more. And I guess the belief with me came through education. When I started educating myself about what pregnancy really is, instead of having this fantasy, it's just going to be this magical moment in time where everything was just perfect. And that just wasn't the truth. And so I had to educate myself. There's some good books out there, The Expectant Father and What to Expect While Pregnant. And then talking to men and really digging beneath digging some layers of the onion off and asking them, what is she really like? What is this like? Is this normal behavior? And I guess the only thing normal during pregnancy is that things are subject to change at a given moment, and you just kind of have to go with the flow and not take things personally. I could have been more understanding, more empathetic. I could have believed what she was telling me more instead of having this notion of what I thought the moment was going to be like. So I guess I could have let go of my fantasy sooner and just accepted reality of what pregnancy is actually like. I thought the fantasy was going to be, we're going to find out we're pregnant and it's just going to be kumbaya and there's There's not going to be any aversions. There's not going to be any nausea. There's not going to be any sickness. It's just going to be this moment in time that's just filled with pure love and joy. And I think that there is pure love and joy, but it's on a deeper level. It's not on a superficial level. Like there's real life challenges that Katya and I have to meet, that people have to meet when they find out they're pregnant. And so the love and joy is there, but it's deeper. So it's not as highlight reel, and it's not like a roller coaster. It's just kind of like a nice steady feeling, I guess. It's not thrilling. I was expecting this whole moment to be more of a thrill ride, thrilling, and it's not thrilling. It's more, well, what am I looking for? It's more pure. It's more wholesome. Wholesome is what I'm looking for. Pregnancy is very wholesome and not so thrilling. Yes. The one thing, if I could do differently, is I would have a lot of these conversations that Katya and I had to have before you get pregnant. Planned pregnancy, I guess, is what they call it. You have a game plan going in. And so I'm 42 years old, and I'm more of an artist personality. And so Katya and I were both 42 years old. We had an innate desire to have a baby, but there was no plans on what we were going to do. And so then she ends up pregnant, and we have to plan this whole thing out. And I'm not trying to be, I'm just stating my experience. Katya was very irrational during the first trimester. And come to find out scientifically, yes, women go through a lot of hormones, which is going to make them irrational. And so if you can have a plan going into this about, are you going to have a midwife? Are you going to do it at the hospital? Are you going to have a nursery? What's the values you're going to instill in the baby? On a boy, is the boy going to be circumcised? Is he going to be uncircumcised? These are all questions to have with your wife before she gets pregnant. That's the number one thing that I would advise anybody, is to really have all these deep, not fun conversations before you get pregnant, because once you're pregnant, it makes it much more difficult to have these conversations. Some of the best advice I've ever gotten in relationships as a man is that you have to liken yourself to a quarterback on an American football team. And your job is to score points. And so you're going to have defenders coming at you from all different ways, and you have to learn to stay in the pocket. So when obstacles arise or people are coming at you from schemes that you didn't see, you have to stay in the pocket and let the play develop, because my whole objective is to score points. If I get flushed by the pocket, it ruins the play. If I turn the ball over, it ruins the play. So my job is just to hold my ground and score points. If your wife is pregnant, you've already scored a bunch of points. So the goal is just don't turn the ball over, stay in the pocket, stay strong, stay firm, stay emotionally available, treat her kind, nurture her, and things should generally be okay. Come kiss me. Come kiss me.